Good evening. The chief executive has become the latest person to wade into the row over the decision by the Foreign Correspondents Club to host a talk featuring a member of the Hong Kong National Party. Carrie Lam expressed regret, but as Caleb Leung reports, the club refuses to change its plans.
It's a pity and regrettable. This is what Chief Executive Carrie Lam said for the first time about a certain organization organizing an event with the topic of Hong Kong nationalism. Lam made the remarks when asked about an upcoming Foreign Correspondents Club event, a talk by Hong Kong National Party convener Chan Ho-tin. She stressed that the Basic Law protects freedom of press and assembly, but such freedom can only be enjoyed when abiding by the law. Therefore, lawful actions to curb the promotion of independence have nothing to do with freedom of speech. The FCC has taken note of Lam's remarks, but has no comment at this time. But it did say the talk is not an endorsement for Chan Ho-tin.
We do not endorse or oppose the views of the people who speak at the club. And our members need to know the views of all political players. And I think it's not reasonable to expect us to only hear the views of chief executives or Beijing officials. We also need to hear the views of their opponents.
Former Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying also took a stern stance towards the FCC. The club should know the red line against Hong Kong independence is absolute and clear, noted Leung on his social media page. He added the club could not invite whoever they want to talk about whatever they want. He also reminded the FCC that its premises is leased from the government at a token rent. The club disagreed with Leung about the rent it pays.
I will just say one thing, which is that we pay a very high rent, much higher, I believe, than most other clubs in Hong Kong.
As for the talk speaker Chan Ho-tin, he said he wouldn't pull out of the event nor change the content of his speech. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Police have arrested 45 people after discovering what appeared to be a stash of drugs in two Tsim Sha Tsui bars. Police discovered suspected drugs including cocaine, ketamine, and MDMA at two bars on 21 Hillwood Road last night. Parts of the estimated $130,000 seizure were packaged as caterpillar fungus. Police arrested 24 male and 21 female suspects, with the youngest of them aged 18. The Yaojim District Anti-Triad Section and the Kowloon West Police Tactical Unit deployed over 100 officers in last night's raids. They believe there have been people taking advantage of the summer holiday to sell drugs to teenagers.
Despite tensions between the mainland and Taiwan, a 28-kilometer-long pipeline started delivering fresh water from Fujian province to the island of Kinmen, governed by Taipei. The water comes from Longhu Lake in Zhejiang City. The pipeline will provide 34,000 tons of water daily. The 30-year water purchase agreement was signed back in 2015. It aims to ease the worries of Kinmen residents about their water supply.
4 people were arrested in the U.S. state of Oregon when right-wing activists faced off with anti-fascists. The protest took place in the city of Portland. Demonstrators aligned with Patriot Prayer came face-to-face with counter-protesters holding offensive banners. The signs read, "Alt-right scum not welcome in Portland," and "Nazis go home." When small scuffles broke out, police in riot gear fired off tear gas to disperse the crowds. During the arrests, multiple weapons were confiscated. 2 prior events for Patriot Prayer ended in bloody fistfights and riots.
Over in Europe, sweltering heat continues to wreak havoc across the continent. The heat is to blame for wildfires in Portugal. The mercury has been hovering above 40 degrees for days. Last year, more than 100 people were killed due to wildfires in the country. The heat is also affecting businesses in Spain. Usually these patios would be filled, but now people prefer cooler venues. Beaches seem to be the only place for people to get relief from the heat wave. The temperatures also affected water sources. Dead fish have been spotted in Hamburg's Ulster River. The heat raised the water temperature and reduced oxygen levels. The heat wave is expected to last for several more days.
Meanwhile, Australia has announced a multi-million-dollar aid package today for drought-afflicted farmers in the country. This, as much of southeastern Australia suffers the worst dry spell in living memory. The package will give farmers in need of lump sum payments and support mental health initiatives and community groups.
It is a very volatile and often capricious climate. And farmers, Australian farmers, are resilient. They plan for drought. They're good managers, but it can become really overwhelming. This is the worst drought in New South Wales since the 1965 drought. Not many of us remember that very well. Most Australians weren't born then. So it is a shocking drought.
And still ahead in our newscast. The government defends record of contractor charged with collecting old electronic material under recycling deal. Hong Kong's firefighters and ambulance crew give a demonstration of their skills. And former action star Steven Seagal takes on a new role.
去旅行啫，唔一定要身水身汗嘅，你都可以成為旅遊達人。只要用永安旅遊 App， 機票、酒店自由行隨時 book， 選擇又多，酒店好多時都可以揀免費取消，仲有底價保證添。而家用永安旅遊 App 首次預訂滿800，仲會即減100。飛定唔飛？用永安旅遊 App 自抵飛。
Welcome back to TVB News. Consumers have been complaining about lengthy waits for a government-subsidized recycler to collect their old devices. The pledge is that e-waste will be taken away for recycling 3 days after a new purchase has been made. Christy Leung has more.
Old devices will be collected free of charge 3 days after a new purchase has been made. This arrangement, also known as T+3, is what Alba Integrated Waste Solution Hong Kong Limited has promised in its service pledge. It is part of a new recycling scheme for computer products and electrical appliances, which came into effect only days ago. The licensed recycler runs a government-funded recycling facility in Tuen Mun to treat e-waste, known as WePark. Still, Alba has come under fire from consumers recently for failing to fulfill the T+3 promise. Speaking to TVB News, the Environment Minister defended the contractor's record.
For the mainstream situations, usually it takes days for the new appliance to be available and to be delivered to your premises. It's a kind of a balance. You know that the WePark operators have to cater for these regulated appliances and also cover Hong Kong Island, Kowloon and the new territories, including the remote areas.
Wong said WePark receives around 500 orders to pick up all gadgets every day. To further speed up the service, Wong hinted that the government may have to impose an extra levy for the additional costs incurred.
In fact, the retailers have the option to engage other collectors to provide the statutory free removal service. It's not a must for them to engage the WePark operators for all the removal. So I think the market will adapt to the new situations and evolve over time.
Besides the WePark operator, there are 2 other licensed recyclers, while 21 applications for the license are still pending. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Today was the day you could experience a massive fire, a building collapse, and a sea accident all at once. Despite the heat, more than 10,000 people attended an open day held at the Fire Ambulance Services Academy. Here's Kana Chu with more.
Don't fret, this isn't real. It's in fact an aquatic incident drill conducted at the Fire and Ambulance Services Academy this morning.
The training is here, but I think in the real life it could be more complicated. The equipment is so advanced that I believe that the firefighters, they can do their job good.
The academy, located at Tangguanhou, opened its doors to public today in an open day to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Fire Services Department's establishment. Around 14,000 visitors attended the event. In addition to exhibitions and game booths, up to 12 demonstrations and simulations were shown to visitors to help them better understand the work of the FSD. This includes the Fire and Ambulance Appliances Parade and silent drills. This simulated scenario of a building on fire was so realistic that it could have easily been mistaken as a real emergency. The building collapse simulator was built to train FSD's urban search and rescue team. What added icing to the cake was this rescue dog's ability to assist humans to locate survivors trapped in rubble. Many found the event educational.
Excited. I don't know so many rescues at high place or a lower place, on the sea, on land.
Others said the experience opened their eyes to the wide range of work the FSD does.
They just know only just help the people or just the fire only, but they didn't know that it's a different role for them.
Despite the scorching heat, this young fireman fan was determined to dress up in the uniform of his dream occupation.
Ready, go! 1, 2, 3. Okay, pass.
There are fitness tests you can take here to find out if you have what it takes to become a fireman. Kana Chu, TVB News.
Meanwhile, police brought one of the 3 robbery suspects transferred from the mainland to 2 locations for investigation today. The 36-year-old suspect was first taken to a unit at Choi Fai Estate. That's believed to be his family home. He was then brought to an industrial building in Tai Kok Choi. The 3 suspects allegedly robbed $23 million worth of watches and jewelry in a Jim Sha Choi shop last month. They were handed over to Hong Kong police by mainland authorities yesterday.
An Indian muntjac is now safe and sound after being rescued from a catchwater drain this morning. The deer was found trapped at the Ting Khao section of Castle Peak Road. Rescuers from the Fire Services Department as well as the Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department helped free the deer. It was sent to Kadoorie Farm for further treatment.
Chinese artist Ai Weiwei is claiming his studio in Beijing was demolished without warning. Video showed a bulldozer smashing in windows and tearing down walls. The rental contract for the dissident Chinese artist officially ended last year, but Ai made it clear that moving out numerous artworks in time was impossible. As a strong critic of China's government, Ai called attention to its corruption and human rights violations. However, it's unclear whether the demolition was meant to target Ai. The sudden demolition came 7 years after his Shanghai space was bulldozed in 2011.
And a former Hollywood action movie star will try to take a starring role in political negotiations. Russia appointed Steven Seagal as the special envoy for humanitarian ties with the United States. The actor is an accomplished martial artist. He said he will take a karate kick at improving the fractured relationship between the two sides. The 66-year-old American was granted Russian citizenship 2 years ago by Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Putin is apparently a fan of Seagal's movies. The thespian has defended the Russian leader's policies, including the annexation of Crimea. Seagal will not be paid for this particular role. And finally tonight, local residents made use of a range of public sports facilities for free today. As our Pinky Wong reports, even the chief executive took part in the fun.
Today is Sport for All Day 2018, and the theme is Stay Active, Healthy and Happy. And the chief executive practiced what her government preaches at a facility in Chengyi. Carrie Lam also played some bocce with people with disabilities, who played the game to stay active. The government says more than 200,000 residents enjoyed many of the city's public leisure facilities for free today.
I believe that by offering the facilities to people for free, people can actually have an incentive to do more sports.
Despite the incentive of free facilities, the badminton courts at Kowloon Park Sports Center was only half full this morning. Other free sport facilities included table tennis courts and swimming pools. A lot of families cooled themselves off in the pool on this hot day. This sports lover said she wants more days like this.
One day is not enough to encourage more people to do the exercise.
This 85-year-old man definitely agrees, as he swims daily before work. He says today's one-off fee waiver is just a bonus for him, as staying healthy is the most important thing. Those who took the chance to use public sports facilities for free today had to reserve their bookings last week. Other recreation and sports programs were also offered that included kicking shuttlecocks and pool soccer.
The Sport for All Day is now in its 10th year. The first one was held back in 2008 to honor the Beijing Olympics. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
And that's our